complicated, right? So probably a few years ago, they all decided to make Facebook pages and Twitter accounts on their own, and then they said, hey, I have this thing, and I don't know, now you might be paying attention to it, but it's probably something that started organically. And so as a result, there's a lot of complications around what access management's going to have, what you're going to do with them, all these types of things. So as far as Twitter is concerned, it's fairly cut and dry. Either you have the password or you don't. That's pretty much the end of it. With Facebook, though, it's a lot more complicated because when you go to your staff, if you decide as a manager that you do want access to all these fan pages that everyone has, you have to kind of treat everyone and every situation a little bit differently because they're all going to be a little bit different. So a few things that you can think about. First of all, just identify with Facebook what you're working with. So you're probably going to run up against one of three scenarios. First of all, somebody who has one personal profile, which they've enabled to subscribe, and they have friends, and that's it. That's their entire Facebook persona. Secondly, you'll run up against folks who have two personal profiles. One is their work profile, and one is their personal profile. So that's another scenario you might find. Third scenario would be someone who has a personal profile and has a fan page. So each of these situations really has to be dealt with differently from this perspective. So let's look first at the personal profile. If someone just has one personal profile, they've been able to subscribe, and that's it. That's how they deal with Facebook. That's how they promote themselves on Facebook. There's a couple of issues with that from a management perspective. This is great for journalists. It cuts in half the work they have to do. It's way easier for them to connect with people. But to be perfectly honest, from a management perspective, this is a bit of a challenge. Because when someone has a personal profile, you really have absolutely no leg to stand on in terms of what you get to say about what they're doing and why. Facebook is very clear that if someone has a personal profile, it belongs to whomever set it up, whoever the namesake of the profile is, it belongs to them. So there's nothing you can say or do to really influence your control over that particular profile. And because of that, you have very limited managerial rights. If you don't really like how they're promoting stories or you'd rather them not promote a certain story, there's only so much you can really do because it's their personal profile at the end of the day. So this is a bit of a problematic situation. The second, if you find somebody who has two personal profiles, this is really a fairly easy thing to deal with because it's actually against Facebook rules and terms and conditions to have two profiles. They're very clear in their rules that if you have a profile on Facebook, you have one. You're not allowed to have a work one and a personal one. They don't like that. They don't allow it. They actually would be able to shut down one or both of the pages. So it's pretty easy to explain to your staff person, hey, you really can't do that. You have to do something about this. And so really the ideal thing to do would be to transfer the work profile into a fan page. There is a migration tool on Facebook. It's pretty easy to do. You'll lose some information, so make sure you read about it before you do it, but this is definitely what you need to do in this case. Next would be someone who has a personal profile and a fan page. So this is mostly what you will find, especially these days. This is what most folks have done. In this case, you have a few things to think about. First of all, who are the admins on that fan page, right? Does someone in the management, of the newsroom, do they have administrative access to the page or not? Especially if you're trying to gain access, first find out if they've made you an admin or not. Secondly, does this page use station branding? Are your logos on it? Is your name part of the fan page name? If so, these are things you can use, as leverage to start to ask for access later. And does the station promote the page? Are you linking to it from your website? Are you allowing them to promote it on the air? Because if so, again, these are things that you're doing that you don't have to do. So as a result, you can work with that employee and say, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to promote your page. We're going to let you use all of our trademarks and our branding. But really, we would like to have access to this while you're employed. And I don't think you necessarily have to go so far as to, yank ownership away from them. But I think having that conversation and kind of saying, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do, let's agree on this, that can go a long way. So once you've decided what you're dealing with, the next thing is, how are you going to approach asking for access to these pages? Are you going to be friend or